who has experience in the federal government, the state government, the county government, who's got private sector experience, who owned a business. I did practice law, Senator, for 11 and a half minutes, and I had to. So I'm counting it. You can't count it if it's only 10, but 11 and a half, totally on the books, and I want you to know I won all my cases. But it was a little tiny drink. I'm counting it. But the point I make is, I hope, that it's that kind of respect and experience for all of it that makes an environment where we can create the kinds of partnerships that do these things. That take the current money that's leaving our state, that goes to Colorado and Arizona and Texas and Nevada, depending upon the year and the budget, that's anywhere from $250 million to $400 million that we send to out-of-state contractors. How do you think New Mexico would do with that money right here? And how do you think Belen would do if there was money here for your small businesses, for your college campus, for workforce training, for investments in your public education, for investments in early childhood education, for investments in taking care and investing in young families? Do you think that you could turn things around in Valencia County?
Yeah.
I think you can. Not only is it on you, but it's nearly impossible if we take away your resources away from you. The greatest return on your economic efforts is investing in your own local businesses. I also believe that we can do more with the money that we invest in this state. We're investing less than most states in their retirement or savings accounts. That's an easy way to talk about our permanent funds, not just the land grant fund, but a variety of our funds. We can do better, and we should. That's money that's available for New Mexicans. And we have to stop dividing the legislature. And I do this all the time, and I know that he doesn't like it, but I'm going to take license again because what can he do? Two things about Senator Sanchez. One, he never, ever shied away from taking on a fight which is aimed at respecting the New Mexicans that he serves. I don't care who. Sometimes I was on that other end. Never, ever shied away. He was transparent, clear, and effective. Two, he believed in those investments and he would fight for them. And three, when I needed him against a governor, right, that's a hard place to be. Your Democratic governor says this, your teeny tiny campus secretary says something else. Most of the legislators go with the governor. When it's about political power, you get to keep what I don't know what they offer. I was never in those meetings. It was always below my pay grade. But I would always lose unless I went to leadership like Senator Michael Sanchez. There's very important lessons that I've got to learn. And I know I remind you about this fight all the time because we're the only state in the country that took this fight on and made a difference, and it's time to take it on again. So when we couldn't correct the terrible care in nursing homes, we couldn't do it. I didn't have the power. It was in every other agency. Nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wants to talk about that. It's a terrible situation, and it costs more money, and Medicaid and Medicare, and really putting forth the effort. Senator Sanchez believed me, and he went against the administration. He went against many of his colleagues. He created the most successful in the country long-term care ombudsman program, which is a long, fancy way of saying that we created a program that was the eyes and ears of people who were in nursing homes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They had absolute access, which in most states you're supposed to do, but nobody makes you do it. They don't let you, because you got to really be tough. And he championed, when many of the House members did not, a freshman, just getting to know everyone, brand new Democratic representative from this community, Representative Cordova. And she had a loved one in a nursing home. And in spite of the fact that she had personal knowledge about how bad that care was, no toileting, bad food, No doctor's appointments, call lights that didn't work, nobody there in the evenings and weekends. The stuff that's absolutely untenable, except for their family. And it wasn't that they were just fighting for their loved one, they were fighting for everybody's loved one who was in that facility. Senator Sanchez, Representative Cordova, created an environment where now New Mexico is the only state in the country that does undercover care evaluations, which means we can check ourselves in as residents, identify the bad care, and there's no way around it for those nursing homes. And they get, are you ready? They don't just get a fine. They don't just get a bad letter. They get shut down. Those owners, those huge corporate, for-profit owners, get taken out of New Mexico, which is exactly what we should do. This governor didn't do one, dismantled the long-term care ombudsman program, and in fact, hasn't done any of the licensing reviews for any of those hospitals or long-term care facilities. Not one. I want to come back and work with the kinds of leaders in this community who have been making a difference for their families forever. And never forgot about making sure that no matter how vulnerable or what kind of vitality there is, that we're going to invest. So, I want to come back and make New Mexico the clean energy state. I want to make sure that we're increasing the minimum wage. Let's get to 10 and let's work with the legislature, because you have to. You don't get to wave a magic wand and just say it's a number. You got to get it through the legislature. Let's get it to 12. It's not enough, but it creates an environment, and if the economy is doing better, I think we create an environment where that's just the floor. It's not the ceiling. And we're going to create careers for our young people, and not just in green and alternative energy. There is so much opportunity. And while I was in Congress, we got two really important pieces of legislation passed. One that allows the DOE and DOD, both of them, two different efforts, to do real tech transfer out of our labs. How many people have talked to you about if we've got two national labs? How, in God's green earth, is it that New Mexico is not a leading high-tech, economy for the country? How is that possible? We have twice as many as anybody else. How is that possible? Right? We have more PhDs per capita than anybody else. Well, because it doesn't really work. You got to work for the government, and none of that stuff that we do the research on really can get out. Nobody can buy it. If you can't buy it, you're not going to do it. He works for Raytheon, a defense contractor. He knows exactly that we need the ability to buy it. Well, guess what? They have to act now like a university, which means they get graded by Congress for their tech transfer. They got to do it. They got to get it out. They got to have a partner. They got to figure out investments. They got to make it easy. And they're not just going to loan you scientists and researchers. They're going to create an environment where you take that technology and just in directed energy or photons or aeronautical aspects, all of it. New Mexico can lead in all of those industries. You know what happens when we're leading in those industries? Cybersecurity. You know what happens? People move here. You know what happens when people move here? Victor, they bring young people. Everyone. Victor will have women and, whoever, to date. And you guys think I'm kidding. He's going to beat me in the car as soon as I get in there. But it's actually a real issue. New Mexico has to have younger people, as well as all of us, in order to create a lasting environment for our economic success and our future. Right? We're the only state in the country that's losing population. Now, you can't lose population. You got to create an environment. And what do young people want? Well, jobs. You know what else they want? And I'll end here. You know what else young people want? Outdoor activities and interesting things to do. New Mexico's got 3 World Heritage Sites, more, again, than any other state in the country, with 2 more under potential designation. So you don't have to go to Peru to go see Machu Picchu. You can go to Chaco Canyon. Why aren't we doing that? New Mexico should be leading in healthcare innovation. Why isn't UNM the bioscience center, not just for all the universities in the state, but why aren't we leading it for the entire country? You know where a lot of the nuclear medicine was identified, research created, and sent out? Los Alamos Labs. Why then don't we lead in those environments? Because we didn't invest in ourselves. We didn't believe in ourselves. We didn't think government had a role. We didn't have any experience. We didn't have any vision. We didn't have any direction. We didn't have any hustle. So, I want to come home. I don't want to be in Congress anymore. To give us our fair share of investments, to care about education, to care about our young people, to care about a healthcare system that's based on my right, not a privilege, that chooses corporations over people. I'm tired of a Congress that won't address gun violence, and I'm tired of a Congress that's dividing this country as we talk about the right thing to do for dreamers and their families. Now, I'm not gonna give up that fight. And I don't care what just happened in the Senate. And that's the kind of governor I think that we all deserve. I don't always win it at the first effort, Senator. Sometimes it takes me 2 or 3, but I never stop. And we're gonna win that. We're gonna win that because it's the right fight to win. Even if you just take on the economic value of these dreamers, and this is a true story. The Mexican consulate came to see me in my congressional office and said, what kind of a country would reject some of the brightest young people in your country? 1.8 million of them who are doctors and lawyers and nurses and engineers and educators and long-term and caregivers and working in ag. They work in every kind of industry imaginable. 20,000 of them are educators. A set of twins in New Mexico. One just left medical school because she just doesn't know what her future looks like, and she's trying to do advocacy. And the other one just passed the bar and has a provisional license, Senator, because we don't give you a bar license unless we know you can work. If she doesn't have DACA, there's no guarantee that she can work. They gave her a first-time provisional license through April. And if we don't fix DACA by April, somebody who is in the top 10% of her class isn't going to get to practice law in our state. And guess what kind of law she wants to practice? Immigration law. And let me tell you, and then some people get really nervous about that. Well, do we really want that? There's a lot of issues. Well, I want you to think about this in immigration law. We send back unaccompanied minors without judges and lawyers. And do you know that at least, and it's underreported, but at least a third of the children that we send back over the border are part of human and sex trafficking. And without those immigration lawyers, we send them right back with their abusers. What kind of a country does that? And in fact, the United Nations has identified that it's one of the worst practices in the world. This young woman will stand up for those children. And she won't get rich. She won't get famous. Probably a whole lot of folks won't even know to thank her. But we'll know that another strong, capable, compassionate, productive, incredible New Mexican stood up for individuals and for children who couldn't stand up for themselves, because that's what we're made of. Right? That's who we are. And that's why I want to come back. I want to work with you. I want a movement about making New Mexico first in as many things as we can. And I promise I'm ending so that I can defer to Senator Sanchez. But you know what I think about when I think about Belen, and I know that Benny will remember this. Remember the doodle bug? So I want you to end with this story, because sometimes when I barked at poor Michelle, so my maiden name is Lynn. When my dad was dying, it was really important because I'm a widow. The name of the man, I wanted both the men in my life's names. I'm a Lujan. Been here 400 years. I want that name, so before my father died, I made sure that that was my middle name. And I'm a widow. Make sure that my children know that I will never forget the love of my life, their father, right? But Belen was the hotbed of my grandparents. I don't know how they stayed married. Because my grandfather was quite a bit older. He got married to my grandmother when he was in his 40s, and she was 17. Oh. He was a Supreme Court, and Tommy's like, oh no, don't tell another bad story. Richard's like, thank God she's not talking about me. Go with that story. All right, so they're married, she's young. There's a lot of fun stuff that goes on in this community. They used to drive together, and they would have these great neighborhood parties. That sounded an awful lot like a matanza to me. And my grandfather would want to drive home early, and my grandmother would have none of it. So he would leave her, all right, thinking he was making the point. I'm the man, I'm the husband, I'm leaving you. And she'd say, fine, I can ride the doodle bug home. And there was a group of incredible women who shopped together, raised their families together, who thought about how they were making a difference for their families and their communities, who also know who had to have a little fun on a weekend, and they rode the doodle bug, which was a little tiny train that went, and we purchased it, didn't we? So now it's in a museum. Well, I remember those stories growing up about how beautiful it was to live in Albuquerque, but to visit and eat and shop and come to Las Lunas and Belen and Socorro, and to meet your neighbors and your relatives and your friends, and how important those relationships were. So that's what I think about when I come home, and I think about my grandmother, and I think about the doodle bug, and I think about how fun my grandparents were, and I think about how wonderful each of you are, and I think about what a difference we can make in New Mexico together. So I hope this means that you will join me. Let's put New Mexico back on the map as the #1 state, no matter what it is: healthcare, energy, jobs, economy, young people, and education. We can do it.